Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new on my channel, then welcome. So today's video is going to be another one of the to buy or not to buy video series. When everyone else is looking into the Anastasia Beverly Hills subculture palette, which is all the rage right now and the internet is buzzing, I feel kind of funny doing a review on a palette that has been out for such a long time already, especially since the main talk is about a whole other palette right now. But just recently I got the Morphe 35O palette, which is probably Morphe's best-selling and most widely known palette. Well, besides the Jaclyn Hill one that just recently came out as well, that is probably now their best-selling palette. But since it's limited edition and this one is here to stay, I would say that this is definitely their most well-known palette. I just recently got this in the mail and I have not even swatched any of the shades. I just left it in my drawer and I wanted to keep it fresh until I do this video for you guys. So we are going to be looking into all of the eyeshadows in this palette. We're going to do some swatches, and at the end of the video I'm also going to do a tutorial showing you how I used the shades on my eyes and just kind of letting you know how they apply on the eyes and how they blend into each other, all that kind of jazz, so you can see it in action for yourself as well. That's pretty much the whole agenda for today's video. Let's get into it. So first things first, the 35O palette is a part of a 3-palette sort of series, meaning that 3 palettes have pretty much exactly the same color schemes, they just have different finishes. So the 35O one is a mixture of mattes and shimmery shades, whilst the 35S palette is only shimmers and 35M palette is only mattes. Usually people tend to go for the mixture palettes, not just for the matte ones or just for the shimmery ones. It just gives you much more variety to work with. That's why I think it's a lot more practical. For those who don't know, the 35 in front of, well, the number in general in front of Morphe palette suggests the number of pans in the palette, so you do get 35 shadows in here, and as you can see they are all very much kind of warm toned now, with the more sort of colorful and I wouldn't say wacky, but just kind of more out of the ordinary shades. For instance, you know, the Subculture palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills, those kind of palettes seem to be coming out now more and more, since I think people are getting more bold and experimenting with colors. But it's just good to have something like this that you can, you know, create everyday looks with, or you can also create kind of the going out, like night out and special occasion looks with. I'd say that the color range on this is pretty good. Most of the shades in the palette are sort of dark, and then you do get the more sort of orangey section right over here, and you get some more goldy and pinky and more neutral shades in there as well. It has all the colors that I want and that I love to use. So yeah, I am very excited about this. Last but not the least, before we get into the swatches, this palette retails for $22.99 US, so it is a very affordable palette if you think of it this way. You're getting a lot of product and there are so many shadows in here that you can play around with. For that amount of money, it is a very good deal. It is definitely worth considering. I mean, just based on the price point and the amount of shadows you get in here, and the color selection is absolutely gorgeous. So right now I would say that I am liking this palette, and I am kind of seeing why people are so in love with this palette. I am absolutely seeing why that is. But before we get into the final verdict, let's do some swatches and see how we come up with this eye situation. Okay, so let's try these things out. As you guys can see, I have already got my eyelids primed. I am all ready to go. I've also got the rest of my makeup done. Now all there's left to do is just dig into these shadows. I don't know exactly the kind of look that I am going to do, so we are just going to wing it and see what comes out. But I do know that I want to use these more orangey and warm shades over here. Because that is what the palette is about, you know. First, I'm going to dig into this shade over here. Oh, okay. I want you guys to see this. Tap my brush in there. There is a bit of kickback, let me just tell you. They are quite powdery, but it's nothing that we can't work with. So the first thing that I'm noticing is that at least this shadow, it seems to be very pigmented. So it is building up very nicely, and I don't really have to put that much effort into it. And it seems to be blending out quite seamlessly as well. But of course this is a light shadow, so just have to see what the darker ones are going to be like. You really want to make sure that you tap off the excess, because there is quite a lot of kickback, at least with the matte shadow. So you just want to make sure that you are tapping off the excess, otherwise you're going to end up with a pile of fallout on your cheeks. Next up, I want to go in with this shade right over here. It is just slightly darker, but very similar undertone-wise to the shade that we just put down. I am not really digging my brush in there too much. I'm just slightly tapping. There's not as much kickback as there was with the previous shade, but still quite powdery. I'm just working that slightly lower in the crease and mainly focusing it in my outer V. Very nice. I'm taking the colors all the way into the inner corner. I'm just going back in with the previous shade, just the slightest bit, because I feel like the dark one has taken over a bit too much. So I just want to bring the lighter shade back into the eye look, but just very softly around the edges. So next up, I'm looking forward to this shade. It was one of the shades that just straight away caught my eye, and I knew that I wanted to use it. Oh, this has barely any kick up at all. I'm just focusing it lower in the crease in my case, because I have slightly hooded eyes and I always take my transition colors fairly high up. I always take the darker shades pretty much straight in the crease and slightly above it, but just very slightly. That just gives me the appearance of not having such hooded eyelids, which is what I want. So pretty much so far, I am so happy with the pigmentation of these shadows. Just going back in with the 227, was it? Yeah, 227 that we used to lay down the more orangey shade. And I'm just slightly diffusing the edges. Look at that. Like a pretty sunrise. No, sunset. So I'm going to start with the brownie shadow, and I'm just going to pack some on my synthetic brush. Okay, not really that much pigment. Maybe it's a bad brush to use. This shadow. Oh no, we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm just going to take this shadow very slightly in the crease. Okay, I'm getting some fallout on my cheek, and since I've already done all of my concealer and all that, I'm gonna have to do that again. I took the number 224 Luxe Defined Crease by Zoeva. It's just a very tiny little blending brush, and I'm just going over the edges, diffusing this into the crease. Going in with the 227 again with that orangey shade, whatever's left on the brush, I'm not taking any more. And I'm just going to run over the outer V part of my eye. Okay, so next up is the Ready Shimmery shade. I'm going to use one side of the 234 Luxe Smoky Shader by Zoeva, making sure that I'm picking up a decent amount of product. I'll start putting that on the center of my eyelid and blending it into the more coppery shade. Oh, this is a very pretty color. Okay, and last but not the least, I am taking the star of the show, And I'm going to pack that on the other side of the brush, which is clean. Oh my god, wow. This seems to be one of the shades that has a lot of glitter in it. There's these little shimmery particles that are kind of flying around, so I feel like I have to be more careful with this one so it wouldn't fall all over my face. I'm just going to start packing it in the inner corner of my eye. It's funny because in the pan, the red shade and the shade that I just put down, the more sort of goldy orangey shade, they look so different in the pan, but when you put them on the eye, they look very similar. The finish of them is different though. The one that I just put down is definitely more sort of glittery and has more like a goldy reflex in it. And the other one is definitely more satiny and just kind of more metallic looking. I'm taking the other side of the brush where we still have some of that red shade, and I'm just pressing on top of that glimmery shadow. I'm just going to clean up the fallout and fix my makeup under the eyes, and then I'll just quickly pop on some mascara and some lashes, and I will come back and finish the lower lash line. Okay guys, so this is how we are currently looking with the lashes on and cleaned up under the eyes. I used the House of Lashes Iconic Lashes, and I used the Anastasia Waterproof Cream Color in the shade Jet in my upper waterline, just to tight line. I have got my eye on this thing right over here. First, I want to do the brow bone highlight and the inner corner highlight as per usual. So I'm going to take the first shade in the palette. Again, it has a bit of kick up, but not as much. So, inner corner highlight. For that, I'm taking the shade which is right next to it. And it looks like a regular kind of white shade again, but this is just shimmery. Okay, no, I'm not liking this because this is not intense enough, so I'm gonna take the shadow underneath it, which looks like a duochrome almost, like a goldish, pinkish, shimmery color. Again, it's not as shimmery as I was hoping it to be. I thought it was gonna be way more intense, but whatever. Just gonna roll with it. But let's see what we can do with this very shimmery shadow. It looks texture-wise, it looks very similar to this one. I'm taking this on a 235 contour shader brush by Zoeva. Let's see what happens. Okay, I'm liking it, but only in the inner part of the lower lash line. So that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna keep it in this part right over here. Just kind of taking it. I'm blind. I think we have to use the brown shade. That one. Just gonna start buffing it in. The outer part. And I'm taking the fluffy end of it again. Very slightly. Brushing over. Okay guys, so this was the look that I came up with using the Morphe 35O palette. I just added some mascara on my bottom lashes as well. As always, you guys know, I always use the MAC False Lash Extreme Black mascara on my lower lashes. And I also wanted to keep it in the kind of peachy family, so I used the Ofra liquid lipstick in the shade Sao Paulo. I am very, very impressed with the quality of the shadows. All in all, I am very, very happy with how the shadows applied on the eyes and how they blended out and how they all mushed in together. Yeah, I really, really like this. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, then please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel so that you wouldn't miss out on the future fun that I have coming up on my channel. This is all from me, guys. Thank you so, so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!